Previously on Essence of Thought.
Speaking of positives, there's a few other little things I just wanted to touch on, starting with how Trans Pride Brighton, one of the biggest trans prides in the UK, has come out and officially banned their local Labour MPs from attending. And yeah, it's easy to see why. The Labour Party has, in many ways, outdone the Tory party in just how cruel it has been towards the LGBT+ community, particularly trans people and trans youth, first extending and then making the Tories' puberty blocker ban permanent. They also seem set to do the same with gender-affirming care for adults. That is political, legal, and medical violence. It is therefore not appropriate for Labour to have any sort of presence at a Pride event, and I personally believe this should be the norm for general Pride as well, not just trans Pride.
Well, it finally happened. Birmingham, Brighton, Manchester and even London Pride, so the 4 largest general Pride events in the UK, have all come out and officially banned political parties for enacting violence against the trans community or failing to defend the trans community. This is a big shift in the political climate surrounding Pride and is something well worth discussing. But first, a quick content warning for the following: transmisia, child abuse, medical abuse, and sexual abuse. If our work has helped you, please consider supporting us via Patreon so I can keep the channel running. We cannot survive without your support. You can also help us by liking, commenting, and sharing our work on social media. Hi there, my name is Ethel Thurston, she, her, they, them, and we need to talk about Birmingham, Brighton, London, and Manchester Pride following the standards set by Trans Pride in releasing a joint statement banning all political parties from their events. The statement itself was published on the 12th of May under the title, A Joint Statement on Political Party Participation in Pride Events, Standing Together, a United Front for Trans Rights, and read as quote, "As the organisers of the UK's largest Pride events in Birmingham, Brighton, London and Manchester, we come together today in unequivocal solidarity with our trans community. We are united not only in message, but in purpose. At a time when trans rights in the UK are under growing attack, our resolve has never been stronger. We will not allow progress to be undone. We will not stand by as the dignity, safety, and humanity of our trans siblings are debated, delayed, or denied. What is happening here in the UK is not isolated. It is part of a disturbing global trend, from the banning of Pride events in Hungary to anti-trans legislation in the United States, where LGBTQ+ rights are being systematically rolled back. The UK must not follow this path of regression. Instead, it must rise as a global leader in human rights and equality. The recent ruling by the UK Supreme Court to exclude trans women from the definition of the term woman underscores the urgent need for immediate action. In this moment, we choose to stand firmer, louder, and prouder in demanding change that protects and uplifts trans lives. That is why, this year, we are collectively suspending political party participation in our Pride events. Know that this is not a symbolic gesture. It is a direct call for accountability and a refusal to platform those who have not protected our rights. We demand real commitments and measurable progress. The Pride movement was born from protest, and we must continue to embody that spirit with intention and urgency. To move forward, we need more than promises. We need every political party to stand unequivocally with every member of the LGBTQ+ community and to center the voices of trans people in policy, practice, and public life. Collectively, we call for full and enforceable protections under the Equality Act, timely and dignified access to NHS gender-affirming healthcare, a reformed accessible gender recognition certificate process, sustainable funding for trans-led services and support organisations across the UK. This is the minimum. Anything less is not allyship, it is abandonment. To those in power, when you demonstrate true solidarity and tangible commitment to trans rights, we will stand with you. Until then, we will continue to speak truth to power and fight for a future where every trans person can live safely, freely, and proudly. As Pride events across the UK face mounting challenges, our resolve only grows stronger. We will not be silenced, we will not be divided. Together, we will build a national movement rooted in justice, unity, and unapologetic pride. Now, more than ever, we need everyone to show up for trans lives and show up for pride. In solidarity, Birmingham Pride, Brighton Pride, Pride in London, Manchester Pride." End quote. Of course, this has me over the moon. Whilst I do think there's room for improvement, like explicitly mentioning the violence targeting trans children by both the Labour and Tory government, it's still a welcome change. As shown at the start, this is something I believe General Pride should be doing, so to actually see it happen brings me a lot of joy. Labour, the Tories, and a few other parties have no place at Pride. And yes, I am going to be focusing on Labour, since they were the group who, following the queer community support of the miners' strike of 1984 through 85, passed a motion to enshrine LGBT+ rights into their party manifesto, a pledge to stand by us in our time of need, just as we stood by the unions in theirs. Sir Queer Harmer has violated that pledge, a move that's not only hurting trans people, but lesbian, gay, and bisexual people, along with every cis woman. Labour was founded to be the UK's left-wing party, protecting the people, which includes marginalised people. And yet, they're the ones currently in power, inflicting horrific violence upon the community, going further with said violence than even the Tory party when they were in government. So, naturally, I'm going to focus on the fact that Labour has been banned from Pride because that is significant. It shows that the wider LGBT+ community is waking up to what they are doing and have our backs. But let's talk specifics. The Labour Party has chosen to lie in defence of the scientifically bankrupt Cass review as justification for making the Tories' temporary ban on puberty blockers permanent. Labour Health Secretary Wes Streeting defended said review as sound clinical advice. What he left out, of course, is the fact that the review is known to have lied about pre-existing research, about its own methodology, and about the author's prior anti-trans bias and conflict of interest going in. For whilst Cass took to presenting herself as an unbiased reviewer, two of her colleagues came out about the fact that she was known for promoting anti-trans propaganda, specifically Abigail Shrier's Irreversible Damage, the transgender craze seducing our daughters, which presents all trans boys as naive girls, duped into thinking that they're boys. Cass's anti-trans bigotry was known at the time she was chosen for the position, which is important seeing as a Freedom of Information request revealed that only a single person, Hilary Cass, was ever considered by the Tory government for the position. The then Equalities Minister, now leader of the Tory party, Kemi Badenoch, openly boasted about the fact that she and her government filled key positions with anti-trans bigots since they knew Hilary Cass's review wouldn't stand actual scientific scrutiny. Once they'd filled the gallery with anti-trans zealots, this allowed them to hire Hilary Cass, a non-professional in the relevant field, as a medical hitman. Cass was then rewarded for unleashing such horrific violence upon the trans community with peerage, making her a permanent member of the House of Lords, in large part thanks to Badenoch, revealing a horrific conflict of interest. Cass had every reason to lie. And in case you think I'm being conspiratorial, here is Badenoch boasting that she's the reason Cass got peerage.
J.K. Rowling tweeted support for you in the past, particularly on gender issues. Would you give her a peerage? I would. I don't know whether she would take it, but I certainly would give her a peerage. I managed to get Dr. Hilary Cass a peerage because I knew that she was somebody who would have a strong voice in Parliament. These women who have fought for so much need protection. They're attacked relentlessly by all sorts of oddballs and bad people, and I'm really pleased to see her taking up the peerage in the Lords.
Hasn't she?
This level of corruption should have been a slam dunk for the Labour Party. The opposing party had not only sought out an anti-trans bigot to fabricate justification for their violence, rewarding her with peerage, but had openly boasted about it. They could have absolutely eviscerated the Tories' credibility if the current Labour government weren't so hell-bent on torturing trans youth. And I do mean torture, especially in light of the fact that an earlier temporary ban was connected to at least 16 child suicides under the Tories, entirely preventable deaths which the Labour Party have attempted to erase in order to cover for their own support of said violence. This is what has forced children, such as those at Trans Kids Deserve Better, to take up protesting in response to said medical violence. And they are still fighting the Labour government. Just the other day, they painted the NHS headquarters on Waterloo Road in protest, calling upon the government to, quote, release the trans youth suicide report, end quote. What report are they on about? Well, it turns out that there was a report written by the National Child Mortality Database on improving suicide prevention strategies for trans kids that was completed all the way back in March of 2024, yet both the then Tory government and subsequent Labour government have refused to publish it, presumably because it exposes the harm caused by the violence they've chosen to inflict. I'm considering doing a standalone video on that topic, so do let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in that. Yet it's not just children. At the end of last year, trans adults, including those who had already undergone a gonadectomy, meaning their body produces negligible amounts of sex hormones, were suddenly denied HRT. This put said people at extreme risk of health complications, particularly those who have undergone a gonadectomy, as sex hormones are essential for both soft and hard tissue maintenance. Said people will suffer extreme osteoporosis and muscle wastage, including of the heart, putting them at high risk of cardiac attack. Then, of course, we have the recent Supreme Court ruling which has excluded trans women from the legal definition of a woman in retaliation to the Scottish courts upholding the human rights of trans people to self-identify. It must be noted that one of the primary voices listened to at said hearing was anti-trans leader Nicola Murray, who was, at the time of testifying about the supposed dangers of including trans women, standing trial for child sexual abuse. She has since been convicted of abusing no less than 4 children over a span of about 20 years, and has received a 3-year prison sentence. Abysmally short, most likely because of her gender-critical views and their connections to the courts. In spite of this fact, the EHRC, which was known to be compromised long ago, sent out guidance telling businesses that they must discriminate against trans people by excluding them from spaces they've enjoyed access to since at least 2010. This is going to embolden anti-trans bigots, leading them to attack any woman who doesn't fit their narrow definition of what a woman is, saying that's going to harm gender non-conforming women, cis lesbians, and cis women of colour, on top of trans women, who are still the main target. This is violence that the current Labour Party has supported. Though there is some good news. Trans journalist Not Ashley has announced that they're readying to sue the EHRC. I wish them all the best, and it's certainly a story we will be following. If you can't tell, there's a lot going on right now, a lot of topics deserving their own videos, but I am, for the most part, one person trying to cover everything. Point is, the Labour Party has both enabled as well as enacted violence against the trans community, along with lesbian, gay and bisexual people, and therefore has no place at Pride. They are a danger to our community and need to be treated as such. I think Paulie Kidd said it best in one of her videos about separating the art from the artist, namely that we should, quote, never build a bridge with someone who wants to hang you from it, end quote. That's pretty much where I am on the UK Labour Party. They are actively taking steps to destroy the trans community, including driving trans youth to such extremes that they see death as the only means of escaping said violence. Labour is killing us. So fuck them and their bitching about no longer being allowed to promote themselves and their genocide at Pride. If a single recognisable face turns up, such as streeting, they need to be removed, if not by the organisers, then by attendees. We have a duty to our most vulnerable to ensure that Pride is safe, and it won't be safe with them around. Streeting separated himself from the queer community via the blood of trans youth. That is a choice he made. Treat him the same way you would treat anyone who pushes for the extermination of LGBT+ folk, because that is what he is. As for other parties, I think my thoughts on the Tory party are pretty clear. Both the Greens and Lib Dems are currently floundering over their own internal transmisia, so I'm not overly sympathetic towards either, and I don't think I have to say anything about the fascist party, which is Reform. Though, what do you think? What are your thoughts on the ban? What knock-on effects could this have surrounding the current climate? What should the focus of Pride be this year? Did you notice something I missed? If so, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And if you appreciate what we do here and want to help keep us running, please consider becoming one of our wonderful patrons who make our work possible. You can also make a one-time donation via PayPal or Super Thanks on YouTube. On that note, we'd just like to thank the following people: Matthew Kovac, Flynn, and Higgins the Seagull. And for myself, Adita, and Levi, take care now.